Good evening, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live. To have some breaking stories this evening, and I'm actually going to run these separately, but just so you're aware, both of these stories that I'm going to be speaking about. One, the assassination of Fakhrizadeh, Iran's nuclear scientist, that they have blamed the United States and Israel being complicit in this assassination. But all the different scenarios, the stories that have come out about his assassination. Well, we've actually heard from our Middle East intelligence source on these issues here and find out what the real narrative may very well be, and not quite as it has been portrayed thus far in the public eye. In fact, in the article here written by Seth Frantzman, he's going to go into the issue that, it seems like Tehran really has to make some really wild, blown out, far out assassination narrative in order to make it look like that it's really elaborate, so that Tehran doesn't seem to be weak and unable to protect its own people, its own high value targets in the country there. Nonetheless, we're going to get into this, look at that a little bit, but also in a separate video, we're going to be talking about the famed Professor Chaim Eshed. I think he's a professor of Tel Aviv University there. He's also the retired chief of the Defense Ministry of the Space Division. He has spoken out about aliens and their existence, and of course Israel and the United States are working with them, and how that Trump wanted to blow the lid off of this. Well, we're going to get into that tonight. And we're going to talk about that in a separate broadcast. I'll probably load that one on Patreon tonight, and then maybe I'll get it uploaded over here for you guys tomorrow on Israeli News Live. But we'll share that with our Patreon viewers first there. So be sure to, if you're not already on there, Patreon, Israeli News Live. I'll put the link in there for you below. Let's get into the big story, though, that's really got me on the edge of my seat tonight. Fakhrizadeh, as Seth Frantzman wrote in his article here, remote control weapons killed Iranian nuclear scientist, key nuclear program chief Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, according to the Iranian accounts. But another account has it differently. A handful of assassins did it. Yet a third explanation has it 12 men came with several vehicles, using one of them to blow up and block the security convoy that was protecting the high-value target. The competing narratives over the killing of the man who was as the pinnacle of Iran's nuclear industrial complex are befitting one who was anyway known to be in the spotlight. He goes on to say in the article, Mr. Fakhrizadeh knew that, and those around him knew that colleagues such as Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force head Qassemi Soleimani had a deadly meeting with an American missile after traveling to Baghdad in 2020. And on the other hand, they take out my highlights again on me. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. Took out the high value target. Here we go. And had been called off in the past Iran also knew that plans to attempted assassinations had been called off in the past for high value targets. By the way, Soleimani had been there on a peace mission that was never disclosed to the public, but we were able to prove that in our own reportings there. He had met with Saudi Arabian prince there, trying to bring about an end to the fighting that was going on in Iraq. But he ended up having a very fateful end nonetheless. But anyway, as we go on into this, in the article here, they go into these elaborate schemes, as he says here, and then Fakhrizadeh's car struck something. He got out. There was a Nissan truck with a remote-controlled weapon in the back, sort of like the 1997 film The Jackal. Several bullets hit Fakhrizadeh as he lay wounded, dying. The truck exploded also remotely. Only 3 minutes had passed, and that would have been a lifetime for his guards and the two other cars and his wife. He was dead. Right? A second version, posted online under the name of Abu Ali, claims to present another version from the Iranian sources. In this estimation, the hit squad included 12 personnel. They had military training equivalent to special forces outside of Iran. More than 50 people supported their operation, maybe manning drones or satellites, driving logistical support, or moving weapons. The assault squad used a Hyundai Santa Fe Jeep, a Nissan pickup truck, which was Trap AA, and 4 motorcycles. It gets constantly more and more elaborate as you read through the article. I'll post a link. I don't want to bore you with all the details there. But we heard from our own Middle East source there that has been the most accurate intel source we have ever used on Israeli News Live, that has given us the stories that have come out of the Houthi rebels, the attacks on the Saudis. He's given us the information about how that the Patriot batteries were unable to shoot down Iran's missiles that were coming in, even the ones that were used by the Houthis there, because of the technology used on the tips of those missiles that make it undetectable. He shared with us the information about the Mujahideen of Iran and how they were being used to be able to attack the Japanese tankers to make it look like it was Iran. It has just been one case after another that has been so accurate. And even our U.S. intel partners have had to acknowledge the accuracy of the information that we get. So this evening he wrote to me and he said, over the last few days, a few different versions of what has happened has been put forward by the Iranian authorities. Some of them were suitable for a Hollywood Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise as the main assassin. What I'm hearing now from someone I could rely on, but he was not sure either, so it's not confirmed what we're going to share with you, but it definitely seems to be far more plausible than the rest of the stories we're hearing. He said it seems that all this nonsense was BS. Fakhrizadeh had 3 bodyguards in his car. All right, now you got to understand, Iran has 2 intelligence services to begin with, or 2 intelligence apparatuses. They have the Governmental Intelligence Ministry and the Revolutionary Guard Intelligence Ministry, which is their counterintelligence unit. But he goes on to say, because of the guy's importance, the second apparatus chief had personally put someone he trusted in Fakhrizadeh's security detail. Supervisor and the rest of the team would come from the ministry. That guy was killed, 2 other bodyguards. One was driving. Fakhrizadeh tries to escape and gets out of the car, but he finishes him off outside. This seems to confirm the points consistent on all versions, him leaving the car, one of the cars from the detail separating from the convoy, and as he put, there was no convoy. Witnesses saw shooting. Now, whether he had a convoy and they thought that they were using it as a decoy due to heightened threat level of all potential targets, I don't know. But according to what we believe to have happened, the car with Fakhrizadeh in it was the sole car at the scene. Now, Israel and the U.S., as he goes on to say, for obvious reasons, try to take credit for that without doing that. This for sure was the work of some overseas intelligence services, but for some reason that I cannot explain, I feel like it was not Israel or the U.S. My gut feeling has not been that inaccurate in similar instances before. So it may be that Israel and the U.S. were not directly involved, but then again, another article that I've been working on as well, and it's this one right here by Elijah Magnier. How will Iran answer the assassination of Fakhrizadeh? He suggests in here that basically Netanyahu implicates Saudi Arabia. Notice right here, the assassination of the Iranian scientist Moshe Fakhrizadeh was not explicitly, but only implicitly announced by Netanyahu. What are Iran's options? Who supported Israel in this assassination? How did Netanyahu drag Saudi Arabia onto Iran's target list? On which platform is the next battlefield expected to be? Netanyahu wanted to show Iran that he was not alone, and the assassination of the Saudi Arabia is also involved. This means that the Iranian choice of revenge objectives will not be limited to Israel. Netanyahu hit clearly below the belt, but it's not unusual terms of his character and strategies. You see, if you remember, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, who've also signed agreements with Israel, were both quick to condemn the death of the killing of the Iran's nuclear scientist. But Saudi Arabia didn't do any apology. I kind of feel like the Iranian Mujahideen was a part of that, but I can't say for sure. And I know that there's been other articles that have suggest an inside hit was done. We'll have to wait and see. Not really sure about that. Anyway, I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, tune in for the broadcast here. Be over on Patreon tonight. Hopefully we'll load it here tomorrow on Israeli News Live for you. About Israel's former retired Chief of Defense Ministry of Space Division. Going to share with you what he has made public. That comes from a good friend of ours, an Israeli journalist out of Israel, who is sharing that information. I was looking online, didn't see it anywhere. So very interesting information. I'll be sharing that with you. Good evening.